print. It was so not like that at all. It was amazing.
That's so cool.
So, and then one of the challenges, so the one where that's just my quilt in there, that's the brown and orange and turquoise quilt there. That challenge was that was the first challenge, and I just picked a line of fabric and said, this is the challenge. Do interpret that line of fabric. And I picked something that I wouldn't normally pick.
Yeah.
And then we called it Summer Childhood Memories. And so I think of something like that.
Right.
And because the colors reminded me sort of the 70s.
Yeah, they do.
So that's where I went with it. Yeah. And so it was really interesting. I don't know if I have the shot of all of us with all of our quilts for that one on here for some reason, but we way interpreted that a lot different, which was really, really funny to us.
That's really great.
And
how long does it take when you guys issue how often do you issue the challenge, and then how long does it take once you do the challenge?
Okay, well, that's kind of funny. So it was supposed to be like every 2 to 3 months.
Uh-huh.
But it's whoever gets done first starts pressuring the others to finish. And it's when the last one is done or we get tired of waiting.
Love it.
Then Elizabeth, the youngest,
uh-huh.
she hosts breakfast and we all go to her house and we reveal. And then whoever's next tells us what the next challenge is then. And my mom has joined us now. Now, she actually has made quilts in the past, but right now she really likes making jewelry.
Uh-huh.
So we've included her in it, and she interprets the theme now in jewelry.
Love it.
I know. So then another really fun one was the one sister, Tina, she's the middle sister. She just gave a 1-word prompt, and it was beach. And so if you look at the bottom of that board, so first I just did a ton of free motion quilting with beach stuff.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then free motion quilt. Do you quilt on, how do you do your free motion quilting?
I have an old HQ16 that I acquired.
Uh-huh.
So it's a sit down mid-arm.
Uh-huh.
And so I just...
A sit down mid-arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have a Juki 2010 that I turned to make into a mid-arm, and I really like it. I like sitting down. I like the sitting down part.
I do. Yes. So I took that and turned that into a beach bag.
That's so cool.
Over bag that's sitting there. And then I also decided to make a beach quilt to go in the beach bag. And so that's the blue and white batik quilt.
Great. Love it.
So anyway, so that's that's what we do. And it's kind of fun because, it makes you, it just make you stretch, right? Because you've got to do something that wasn't your idea.
Yeah.
And that is really hard for me.
Right.
I have learned that I don't do that really well or willingly. It's been a really good
So just giving a word out. So that's something we're trying to figure out what we're supposed to do with the summer with the quilting army. Maybe we could do that. We could put out a word.
You could do a challenge. It's really fun.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Just do a challenge, a word. Well, that's a good idea. We have so many things we could possibly do, and I don't know what we're going to do. All right, so tell me about the family ladies quilt getaways.
Okay. So my sisters and I look for an excuse to quilt.
Yeah.
And so we tried to do it annually. So the first time, it's sort of working. The first time we got as many of the ladies who live in the area to come with us to the Sisters Quilt Show, and we had never been.
Now tell us what the Sisters Quilt Show is.
Okay, it's one of the bigger international quilt shows that there is.
And it's in Oregon, right?
Oregon. Mm-hmm. It's about 5 hours from, maybe not that far. It takes us 5 hours because we stopped for lunch. I don't know how far it is. Anyway, it's about 5 hours from the Portland airport.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds of quilts are there.
It's a big show.
It's huge, and it's in a kind of a Western town where they've kind of kept the Western aesthetics to the town.
Interesting. We so want to. Do you guys go every year?
So I have gone every year.
Oh, cool.
So the first year, there were. Oh, where's the picture here? Oh, it's in the Sisters Oregon, not in the Families Getaway. So the Sisters Quilt Show trips.
Yeah.
If you go to that. So the first year was the big group shot there. That's how many of us we got there, that one on the bottom. And so that is 3 generations of women.
That's so great.
not everybody, but we also did activities. So like my mom taught us all how to make a pair of earrings. Up there in the corner, that's me. I kind of got into, for a very short moment, felting things.
Love it.
And so we made felted pincushion jars while we were there. And then the next year we went, my daughter-in-law was visiting from Rwanda, actually, and it was just a small group of us that went, and that was really fun too. And actually there's a couple people missing from that picture. There was more than that. So pigeoned off of that, we also then started doing just some family ladies quilting getaways.
And are these it's all family, or
my mom and us girls and our girls, and we have some nieces-in-laws.
That's very cool.
And they don't have to quilt to come, obviously. It might be boring, but they don't have to. And we go somewhere, and we literally, like, we went to Long Beach, and they were so nice. We rented this condo at the World Mark there. And there was another little group of people doing exactly the same thing, which was really funny. We move all of the furniture to the perimeter of the room and bring fold-up tables and chairs, and literally it looks like a factory in there.
That's so great.
And you can see the mess we made in some of those pictures. But
That's great.
and then this was the first one. We were all supposed to make the same quilt. And Elizabeth was actually teaching 2 people to be quilt for the first time. My sister, a good teacher. But I did not get the memo proper. because Elizabeth got the patterns for us, and she also gave me a second pattern at the same time. And I do a lot of things really late at night.
Me too.
Yeah, and so I was cutting out the wrong pattern. And it was, while we were all preparing to go, and they're saying, like, yeah, man, I got that thing cut out in 2 hours. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? I'm on my 4th night cutting these darn. And I hate cutting. It's like, I hate it so much. And I complain through the whole thing. So I get there and come to find out they're all making Red Letter Day from Thimble Blossoms. I'm making Swoon, which was a much bigger quilt with many more pieces to cut out. So if you look at that picture, you can see there's a whole bunch of matching quilt tops there, and then my Swoon is sticking out over there.
That's so great.
I have since made that beautiful Red Letter Day quilt.
That's really funny. I like that.
Yeah. So that's that. And we've done that a couple of times too. So we try to do something at least once a year.
Amazing.
And invite everybody.
All right. So African Fabrics Project. Let's look at that one. Oh, they're so pretty. Oh, I love bright colors.
To work on it, I'll tell you. So they're really bright to work with. You can't do it for a really long time. Like long stretches, because the colors are so bright.
Interesting.
My son lives in Rwanda. He and his wife and my just getting ready to turn 4-year-old granddaughter.
Oh.
And he does nonprofit work over there. So when Frida, my granddaughter, was ready to be born, I went over for several weeks. And while I was there, I went to a store that sells all this Katingi fabric and picked out I don't know how many pounds of fabric I brought home. It took a suitcase and brought fabric home from Rwanda. And so I've made a few things using it, like putting it on the back of quilts. I just haven't really couldn't figure out how to use it very well. And then I found out, so that family, they're adopting twin 4-year-old girls from there now, from a neighboring country. And so now there's going to be 3 4-year-olds, and so they're getting ready to come home, and I'm getting ready to go back over there. And so my son, he wanted me to make the girls quilts, and so he bought more fabric from like Burundi and Kenya and
very cool.
around the African continent, because he travels around a lot, as does the family. And he brought him back in a suitcase when he came to the States for something, and then my other son went to visit him and brought it home. So that's where all these fabrics, you can see they're kind of stacked on my ironing board in that one picture.
That's really cool.
So then I had to decide, what do you do with it? Because I wanted them to be pieced quilts because they were made by grandma, right? But I also didn't want to lose the beauty
the fabric, right? Fabric. I love that there's a pink one, so I'll post it on the website. But there's one that's like pink, and you took it and you cut it so that it looks like you cut strips and then made it. It looks like almost like lollipops, but because the way you made it.
So that's a so kind of wonderful pattern, and I think it's called Urban Pods or Metro. I'm not sure which. I can't remember right off the top.
Now, is that the fabric itself, or did you do stuff?
No, those are strips of fabric that you cut with a round or a curved ruler. They have a special ruler. I love their patterns. In fact, the turquoise one is cut using that ruler too. So if you look at the turquoise one, you can open that up, you can see better that it's several pieces of that fabric pieced and then sliced into those wedges. So so when you're looking at the African fabric on that quilt, that's one really piece of fabric. It's like 4 different fabrics.
I love it. It's really pretty.
And then it's a solid fabric on the back.
It's really pretty. Your work is that's really pretty. That's so nice.
So the hard part of working with those fabrics for me is some of them, I don't know the technical description for how they are manufactured, but they do a wax process.
Yeah.
And so some of them are, I believe, stamped fabrics, and some of them are this other wax process. And I looked it up before I got on the video and don't sound like what I'm talking about. I just don't have the words on Sunday to say it.
I understand.
But, because this is my, don't think about hard things today. But anyway, so combining the different textures of the fabric. So the waxed fabric, I didn't want to wash it first because then I'd have to iron it all. And it's really crunchy and stiff and crispy, which is kind of nice to work with, right? Because it stays on grain and all that. But working with it with a piece of fabric that's made, like the background fabrics are all manufactured in the U.S., those solids, was really a challenge.
Interesting.
And so I was really worried when I washed it because they have to wash before they go, but they washed out so gorgeous.
And you didn't have problems with
almost a whole box of color catchers in there. So it worked just fine. I did intentionally use like pretty intense background solids that would absorb some of the problem. But I didn't have any. There were no problems. The color catchers were quite dyed. I washed it. I did it twice, and the second go through, there wasn't hardly anything at all on there. So it is just something to know. It would have been better to do that ahead of time, but I kind of didn't want to lose the wax. I didn't have to re-iron the fabrics.
Interesting.
I needed to make 3 at night. So
interesting.
And then quilt them. So that was something that was unique. Using those fabrics, but I very much enjoyed it, and I'm not done. So I'm going to explore other ways to use them.
Very cool. All right,
where you don't lose the artistic.
Right. How do you that? Right. It's the opposite of the Three Sisters Challenge, the one block thing.
It is the opposite. Yes.
Right. Because you're it's the relationship you have with the fabric, like. Are you trying to change the fabric into something else, like transform it, or are you trying to make the brilliance of the fabric be the thing that people see? Right.
And I see that, exactly. And with some of the fabrics in particular, they're just works of art in and of themselves.
They really are.
And so how do I take that and honor that?
Right.
And of course, emotional attachment to the aesthetic, because I have family who lives over in that part of the world. My granddaughter was born there and lived there. And, instead of taking dance class, she takes drum lessons.
That's really cool.
It's culturally important to me as well.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So let's do Next Generation Art Explorers. What is that?
Oh, so those are 3 of my granddaughters who live here.
Very cool.
And they're getting, they're starting to get bigger.
Yeah.
And so, been teaching them how to sew. They are learning how, they've made some little quilt tops. The two younger girls in particular, oh, where did it go? Oh, there it is. The two younger girls in particular are really interested in sewing. And